Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. If you're watching this replay, my name is Lisa Kirby. I'm the co-founder of the Green Door Life, NAMS certified nutrition coach and permanent weight loss specialist. And today, so excited to do this with you all live, or if you're watching the replay, I'm going to walk you through putting on a constant or continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, if you've heard of it before. I am using the Freestyle Libre 3. We've partnered with a company called Theia that we just love working with as nutrition coaches because they allow us to see our clients' data and blood sugar readings on the back end system, which, as far as we're aware and as far as we know, no other company does that. So it really is our preferred CGM for those who are interested in learning more about blood sugar and understanding these fluctuations that happen throughout the day. And quick backstory before I put this on live, if you're watching right now. I tested for prediabetes in my mid-30s. I also had gestational diabetes with my first pregnancy. So this was a while ago. I'm 41 now. I'm like, wait, how old am I? I'm 41 now. And so I've known somewhat about my potential issues with blood sugar for many, many years. It's only been recently that, blood sugar has been more in the limelight. I'm sure most of you have heard of the glucose goddess and just all these sensors that are now available, not just for people with diabetes, but also people who are just interested in learning more about their blood sugar and blood sugar fluctuations in real time. So not only did I have gestational diabetes when I was pregnant with my first child, I also tested, I went in and did my physical after my second pregnancy, and I tested for prediabetes at that point. What's interesting, when you're working with, your regular physician or GP, he was mind blown that I had prediabetes. I did my, A1C, whatever the typical blood lab tests are, and it was showing, indicating prediabetes, like leading on the way to diabetes if I kept going as I was going. And he just looked at me like, what are you eating? Because on the outside, at that point, I was managing my physique through lots of exercise, lots of cardio, but I was in a massive cycle of binge eating. So I would restrict, try and not eat all day. And then I would consume the bulk of my calories at the end of the day, which, come to find, is when you're most insulin resistant. So you're less insulin sensitive after sunset. And here I was for decades stacking most of my calories at night. So when you present with prediabetes or insulin resistance, kind of, if you find out, get your blood work done, or from wearing a glucose monitor, and we'll talk about how this can be more effective instead of waiting till you develop a full-blown, prediabetes condition. You can get more information in real time before that. What's wild is that I think a lot of people assume, if you have blood sugar issues, you're going to be overweight, or you'll have some sort of physical representation of that on the outside. And it's just not true. Only 14% of adults living in the United States are metabolically healthy. 14%. So this is really like balancing our blood sugar and managing our insulin is it is something that we all need to be looking at as a society, especially in the US. And we are. It's coming, it's being discussed more at the surface. And this is exactly what we help you regulate in our 12-week Awaken Your Nutrition program. So it's something we're super passionate about, because when you regulate your insulin and it's not all over the place all day, not only are you going to avoid, metabolic health issues like prediabetes or even diabetes. These are, not type 1 diabetes that you're born with, where your insulin is just not functioning, period. But lifestyle diseases, lifestyle metabolic diseases that are literally based on your lifestyle practices that can be changed. You will balance and find this level of homeostasis in the body that you have never experienced before, maybe ever. And it really it regulates all the downstream hormones in your body when you start to regulate insulin, and then also cortisol. It's right there with it. They work in tandem a lot. So let's get to it. This whole process is so easy now. We worked with Theia last year, right when they were still kind of like launching and on the newer end. Now they have an app, so it's super easy to get set up. You just order online. If you're interested in ordering a CGM and you want to use Theia, that's the one we love, especially for our clients, because then we can see your data if you're in our community or 12-week program. So you can just pop over to the link in our bio and click on the Theia CGM, and you just choose like an annual membership, and then you can choose how many sensors you want. We typically recommend at least, like especially for women, if you're going to do this and you want the data, we recommend you get the sensors for at least the span of a month. If you're still getting, you have your menstrual cycle and your period, that way you can see the incredible changes through the waves of your differentiation in hormones. So what you should come to find based on normal hormonal changes with like a normal healthy cycle, you should see that your blood sugar becomes a little more resistant in the second half of your cycle during your luteal phase. And you should be more insulin sensitive during the first half of your cycle from day one of your period to ovulation. So you're going to get so much data from wearing these, and you really want to make the most of it by, having a variety of food intake and situations and different types of meals, different types of carbohydrates. It's not just carbs, and it's not just the amount. It's when you eat, what time, what you ate the day before, how well you slept, how much stress you have in your life. All of these things are going to impact your blood sugar. And this is actually what led me down the rabbit hole of just studying and being obsessed about hormones, in finding out all these other things that spike your blood sugar beyond just carbohydrates. Because at the time when I tested for prediabetes, I wasn't really eating that many carbohydrates. What I was doing was going extended stretches of not eating. When women, especially women who have muscle mass, so I was storing a lot of glucose in my muscle and my liver, when you go very long periods of time without eating, I was going like maybe 5-6 hours, just pushing it. Then your body, we're not even talking about insulin at that moment. Then your body has this opposing hormone called glucagon. And glucagon's like, oh crap, we need to regulate blood sugar. Blood sugar's going too low. We're starting to tank. Blood sugar's dipping, energy's dipping, and I wasn't fueling my body. I was trying to do these extended fasts. At the time, I was just trying not to eat. And nowadays it's like, oh, it's intermittent fasting. Like, it's so acceptable now. But I had no idea the damage I was doing to my body, that for me personally, and for so many other people and clients that we work with, was actually leading to prediabetes by too much fasting. And therefore glucagon was ramping up and releasing stored glucose in my muscles, from my muscles and my liver into my bloodstream to help regulate my blood sugar. So that's what's wild, y'all. I wasn't overdoing it with carbs. If anything, I was doing a more low carb diet. I've always traditionally done more low carb. It's just my meshes well with my body type and preferences and all the things. So I just want to put that out there. And I'm actually working with a lovely client right now who had a very similar experience as me doing these extended fasts. Her fasts were actually going into like the 4 or 5 day mark. And she's wearing a glucose monitor right now. And she's noticing if she goes too long and she goes at that, like past that 4-hour mark, her blood sugar will dip, and she gets the reading from wearing the CGM in real time. Her blood sugar dips, glucagon activates, it brings the blood sugar back up. And like just seeing it in real time is so fascinating. And it does this rebound effect where it excessively spikes instead of just eating a balanced meal like every 4 hours or so and eating in moderation. That tends to work so much better for women in particular. So there are so many benefits to wearing a CGM. We are in the midst right now of curating and presenting a beta course or program. It's called Awaken Your Cycles. We're hoping to launch this fall. And part of that process is wearing a CGM. And we're all putting these on today, Sunday. So coaches, if you're listening out there, this is a friendly reminder that we're putting these on. So we're going to go ahead and do this live. And hopefully I can unscrew this cap because I think I had to ask my husband last time. Okay. So as to where you want to put it, it's recommended that you don't wear it on your dominant arm. So I'm not going to put it on my right arm. I'm going to put it on my left arm. And you really want to get in the back of the arm in the more like fattier area of your arm. There's other places you can put it that I've seen online, but it's just, you know, from the last time I wore these, I find that the back of the arm is actually the least in the way. Sometimes if you're wearing it like on your stomach, it can be a little funky with like dressing and showering and all that kind of stuff. So let's get into it. Really, step one. So you want to come in with a clean arm, which I've already washed and dried. And now we are going to open up this little alcohol swab and clean the back of my arm. And we'll just let it dry. So while this is drying, the last thing I want to say about this is just the beauty of working with Theia for us as nutrition coaches and our clients is that we can really track these trends of blood sugar and get into the nitty-gritty details of what things are spiking your blood sugar from, like that carbohydrate didn't work very well. Let's find out if it was the carb or if it was this combination or if it was the amount of this carb or if it was the time of day. Because how you digest and metabolize a meal first thing in the morning versus after sunset is completely different because your hormones are different. So there's so much that you can look at with this data and also really seeing the impact. I think one of the most valuable aspects is realizing, if you get a poor night's sleep and during that process, your body doesn't have that time to kind of rejuvenate and reset overnight, especially with proper hormone production and release that needs to happen overnight, you can wake up with elevated blood sugar levels and you'll see it in real time. And what's amazing about wearing one of these is that you don't have to wait 5-10 years to reach this status with lab tests of, hey, you have prediabetes or diabetes. You can get that data in real time and learn how to regulate your blood sugar, which is going to regulate your mood, your energy. It brings more homeostasis and body weight. So many beautiful, beautiful benefits of having steady blood sugar. When I started learning how to do this and learned nutrition science and why I became a nutrition coach and left the corporate world was because I started implementing just the basics of balancing blood sugar through meal combining and like proper meal portions for my body, making sure I was getting enough protein and fiber in particular. And it regulated my mood so much. Like that was the most mind-blowing part. My energy, my mood, everything was just so steady and stable. I dropped everything. I was like, that's it. I have to get this information out and tell everyone about it because it's so life-changing. I thought I was just like doomed to feeling like crap and riding these waves of ups and downs every day. Okay, so that's air dried. Now we are going into the next step. We're supposed to unscrew the cap from the sensor applicator. Okay, phew. When I did this one time, it was last year. It was pretty hard. Okay, I don't know if you can see, but there is a tiny needle. And for anyone who gets squeamish around needles, I know some clients have shared with us like being nervous about, this part of the process, but I promise it doesn't hurt. It is so minimal. Okay, so next we're going to place the sensor applicator over the site that I just cleaned, which is the back of the arm, and you're going to push down firmly to apply the sensor. I'm just reading. Do not push down on sensor applicator until placed over the prepared site. Right, you don't want to push down before. Okay, here we go. I'm like kind of nervous. All right, so back of the arm, right here. And here we go. 3, and 2, and 1. Okay, that's it. There it is. It's very tiny. So we actually used another CGM company before, like we've done both. And I will say by far, this is the smallest one. So this is the Freestyle Libre 3 from Theia, is who we work with. So this one is so tiny. I mean, you can see it. It's super, super small. The ones that I've used from the other company were massive. I mean, it like the transmitter and it was multiple parts, multiple pieces, like super confusing. And it was huge. It was like that big. And it got in the way, honestly, when, just everyday life, but especially like if you exercise. So it was not great, in my opinion. It's just so small, like you don't even notice it. The last thing I'm going to do is put the cover on. This is going to go on, so it's going to keep like water out and sweat out. So I'm just peeling off the back here. And you can shower with this on. And you're definitely going to want to cover this up. So let's see if I can do this. I'm going to line it up so that's in the center. And then just kind of gently go around. And there we go. Okay, perfect. And that's it. So then you have your Theia app, and you're just going to follow along the steps. It's so easy now because they have an app. You're going to follow along the steps to sync your sensor with the app through your phone, and it's going to give you real-time data of what your blood sugar is like. Now, when we wore these last year, the last time I wore this, constant glucose monitor or continuous glucose monitor, CGM, it took about 24 hours to calibrate. I don't know if that's true anymore. We'll see how long it takes to kind of calibrate. Another cool feature Theia also added is that you can like cross-check your blood sugar levels with a glucometer or some sort of blood test. So if you feel like the CGM that you put on is like, if the reading feels excessively high and you have evidence that your normal, fasting blood glucose levels are not that high, like if you just had a blood test or if you have a glucometer where you do like the finger prick test, you can actually calibrate the CGMs now right in the app with that data. So it walks you right through that on how to do it, which is such a great addition because it is possible that some of them are calibrated too high and you just need to reset it with the data that you have. So that's something to keep in mind. In our Awaken Your Cycles program that's in beta right now, but is coming up, we are going to walk you through during that program what you should be looking out for. What are like good blood sugar level readings that you want to aim for when you wake up? So when you're fasted, what's like a good level there? And then what is an acceptable and optimal level of blood glucose increases after a meal? So let's say you have a meal and your blood sugar spikes like over 60 points. It's kind of a red flag. So we're going to work with you in this container when we launch, most likely in August, to really examine and mitigate those excessive blood sugar spikes. Because it's really going to help bring this regulation in the body. And when you regulate blood sugar, you regulate your mood, your energy, and then all of your downstream hormones, including estrogen and progesterone. And that's why if you want a chill period and no more PMS and less perimenopause symptoms, you need to start at the top with your top 2 tier hormones like cortisol and insulin and get those balanced first. When you get those balanced, the whole cascade of hormones become balanced. So again, these are just one of the many, many benefits you're going to see. We're also going to share in this container in Awaken Your Cycles, the like what to look out for that can spike your blood sugar. That's like nothing to worry about. So this is where like people ask us like, is it worth it? Should I get a CGM? I would not recommend getting a CGM if you don't understand it. Like if you're a practitioner and you understand how this works and you know the optimal levels and you know what spikes blood sugar and what doesn't, I get that. But if you're just out there and you're curious and you're not necessarily a nutrition coach or practitioner and you want to get a CGM, I recommend doing it with some sort of guide or mentor or coach. Otherwise, the data can drive you crazy because you're going to get a lot of information, and a lot of people we work with, when they put these on, they are shocked. They are absolutely shocked at how high their blood sugar is spiking at times. And it's really going to give you a very realistic, just a very realistic view of your lifestyle and the impact of your lifestyle, your food choices, your sleep-wake cycles on your blood sugar. So it can be very, very effective and motivating for people to make lifestyle changes when they see the impact in real time. So I recommend working with a practitioner or a guide or a coach if you wear one of these CGMs, just to give you that insight and that information. The other thing is you really need to know when it's normal to have blood sugar spikes. So when you are doing any kind of exercise, like all exercise is a stressor. All exercise is a stressor on the body. So we should see, anytime we see an increase in stress, increase in cortisol, you should see an increase in blood glucose levels, because that's your body's natural way of activating energy to run away from the tiger, or to strength train, or to respond to a passive aggressive email from your boss. Whatever the stressor is, your body's going to give you blood glucose, is going to increase your blood glucose levels to give you that energy in real time to respond to the stressor. So your blood sugar should go up when you're strength training. Anything like that where your body is drawing on glucose for energy, we should see that spike. So we don't want to get to this place where we become so obsessive about like keeping this flat line of blood sugar. No. Your blood sugar is like going like this. We don't want it to go like this. We just want it to go like this, all throughout the day. But when you exercise, especially strength training or anything that is considered a glycolytic activity, so it's using glucose or the stored form of glucose in your muscles and liver, glycogen. So anything that's a glycolytic activity, like strength training, like metabolic conditioning or HIIT training, anything that's like so high in intensity where your body cannot rely on oxygen and burning fat for fuel, it's moving into this glycolytic state, you should see your blood sugar go up. If your blood sugar is spiking excessively from like a gentle walk, that would be a little more concerning, right? But for anything that's like intense activity, we should see it spike. You will also see it spike from things like doing a cold plunge, anything that is a super stressor on the body. And this is where, for women in particular, over 40 or around that range, or who know they're in perimenopause, this is going to be such valuable feedback for you, because your whole job during that time is to minimize your stress. You want just enough stressors. You want that Goldilocks level of stressors in the body where it's not too much that you are overtaxing the system and you're full of cortisol, because we cannot manage, as women, we cannot manage and tolerate as much cortisol as we could in our 20s and younger, but we don't want too little stress where our body's not making those adaptations like building muscle mass. You want that sweet spot in the middle. So if you are, if you're a woman in perimenopause or in your 40s or maybe even your 30s, but you're doing all the things, you're doing all the stressors, all the intense exercise, you're doing like boot camp style classes or spin classes, and you're cold plunging and you're staying up late and you're only getting like 6 hours of sleep, and you're doing like 5 a.m. fasted HIIT workouts, and you're working 60 hours a week. Guess what? You're going to see, from wearing a CGM, you're going to be, even if your body on the outside looks fit, you're going to see on the CGM the impact of that lifestyle for you. And again, maybe that would be tolerated and okay in your 20s and maybe even your 30s, but as you get older as the female, your hormones start dropping and you cannot tolerate the same amount of stressors, the same amount of cortisol. Why is this? Great question. So your brain in this phase, in perimenopause, the female brain is going through a second puberty, and your hormones, your brain needs to adjust to a different level of estrogen in particular and progesterone in the body. So during this time, especially because we have less and less progesterone is our calming granny girl hormone, right? It's the one that really brings like this chill vibe, especially during the second half of our cycle. We start to lose that. It can start happening as early as age 35. I really noticed a shift after age 40. So as progesterone starts to go down and estrogen's kind of going like this, we just cannot tolerate cortisol and stress as well. And ladies, women who are going through this right now, y'all know. And it's like, sometimes it feels like overnight. You're like, what? Like you'll start to feel inflamed and you'll start to accumulate a little bit more body fat. So that kind of intense lifestyle is just, you're going to see the impact of that, and you're going to see the real-time data and feedback by wearing a CGM. And it's fascinating. Men, you're going to see the same thing. You're going to get that feedback. Can you tolerate more stress as a man? Yes, you can. However, men also start to lose their hormones, start to lower with age, 40 and up, let's just say ballpark. And they can also suffer from low testosterone from too much stress, really too much stress. They have a greater capacity, but still, we're really pushing ourselves here in modern society. So again, just as a recap, if you're joining live, I put on a continuous glucose monitor. So after I close this live, you can scroll back and watch again if you missed it. It was so easy. It's not painful at all. It doesn't even feel like, not even a pinch, honestly. It's so minute. And then once you have it on, you're not going to notice it. This thing is so small. I've got the cover on now and I'm all synced up, and I'm going to get the real-time blood sugar readings in my Theia app. And I'm just so excited. We're all sharing this data in the beta program we're in right now in Awaken Your Cycles. And so we get to see collectively as a group, like different people, different situations, different body types, different ways of eating. This is where it gets so cool, because we get to see as practitioners and nutrition coaches on the back end, this wide variety of different blood sugar readings for different people. And then how to strategize and really kind of bring in more balance throughout your day, so you're not experiencing these great big spikes and then hypoglycemic drops and your energy's all over the place. So if you didn't catch this live, you can go back and see. And I hope this was helpful or at least entertaining. And we'll be sharing a little bit more about blood sugar, how to use these CGMs, like how to gather, like how to interpret the data, because that's going to be the most important thing. I always say, like, if you don't know how to interpret the data, like too much can be overwhelming, right? So we'll be sharing more as we go along. And if you want to learn more about hormones in general, for this workshop I filmed is mostly for women. I filmed a 90-minute training, y'all. It is jam-packed with amazing education, information that I wish I knew, like when I was 14, like pre-puberty. I wish I knew this information before I went and saw an OBGYN for the first time, who just put me on birth control. And then I quickly got off of that. If you want a link to that free masterclass, it's 90 minutes of just solid value, comment hormones below and we'll get you the link. And stay tuned. In the next few months, we'll be launching Awaken Your Cycles, where we go through all the cycles of life, really, from your menstrual cycle to circadian cycles, to blood sugar cycles throughout your day, and really optimizing all these rhythms and cycles in your life. And we'll be wearing as a group these CGMs. So we're doing this now as like a beta test, but stay tuned for more information on that. You can subscribe to our newsletter if you want to be notified first of when we launch. But definitely comment hormones if you would like a link to the free 90-minute masterclass. It is jam-packed with lots of solid information, from like how to make your periods suck less, like all the way through perimenopause, menopause, and later. All right, y'all, that's it for today. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next time. All right, take care.